Hi guys, it's Varda Sharma. I'm so glad you're here. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to do something different. I'm going to show you how I use PowerPoint to work with my digital stamps and create cards. So that's what this video is about. I'm going to show you 5 different things that I like to do, and for all of these I'll be using PowerPoint and the free digital images that I have on my blog this month. So if you want to follow along, you can do that. Just grab the images and you can do all the steps that I'm doing. All right, so let's get started. First of all, why PowerPoint and not Word? I know most of you have probably worked in Word with these images, and I figure you guys have a kind of a workflow on how you like to do things. In my opinion, PowerPoint provides much more ease of use as opposed to Word when it comes to working with images. Simple reason is because when I insert, this is Word by the way, and I'm working on Mac, just so you know. When I insert images in Word, its first instinct, or the way the program is to make it work like embedded images within text. So it's going to place it not one over the other, it's going to try and place it like a paragraph, and then you will have to, even if you try to move it, it will try to still keep them like paragraphs. See, it's not letting me put this on top, it's actually moving the others and trying to keep them like a paragraph. I know there is a way to get around it by changing the properties of this images, etc., but I just prefer not having to do all those stuff. Simply use PowerPoint instead, and that's what I'm going to do. So in PowerPoint, it's very easy. You just use the insert pictures just like we used in Word, and you pick the images that you want. For this first example, let's simply use the two bouquet images that we have. And you will notice as soon as it places it, it has no problem placing the images one on top of each other. In one of the following slides, in one of the following techniques, you will see why this becomes very important. But for now, it just placed the two images on top of each other. It's not making them move like paragraphs. It's not enforcing any artificial restrictions on these images basically. So first thing that you can do with digital images, which you cannot do with rubber or acrylic images, acrylic stamp images, is resizing, right? Once the image is there, that's the size you have. Guess what? In digital, that's one of the first things you can do, and it's very, very easy. You can shrink, you can enlarge, you can do whatever you want. One of the tricks to have up your sleeve is when you're resizing, resize from the corner and hold down Shift key. That way you will make sure you'll always preserve the proportions. So resize from the corner and hold down Shift key. That way you know you're not messing up the proportions. You're not accidentally making them disproportionate. Cool. Even with this, you can do the same thing. It doesn't matter if it is a horizontal image or a vertical image, but it will always scale in proportion. So that's one of the good things. If you want it to be exactly sized, you could go to picture format. Like for example, you want it to fit inside a card. So you want your height to be maybe 5.25 and you want your width to be 4. That way you will have a nice even border on all sides. Then you can actually select the image and make sure this checkbox is there, or there might be a lock over here. This actually indicates that it will change the other, like if you change the width, it will change the height and vice versa in proportion. So guess what? If I'm making the height of this to be 5.25, see, it automatically made the width in proportion. So that is another very, very good way to make sure your images when you're planning a card will fit inside the card. So this is about resizing the images. Second thing I like to do is flip. Again, you can do something, what we call it as a mirror stamping, by taking an acrylic block or a larger, flatter stamp, where you take your normal stamp, your acrylic stamp or a rubber stamp, you stamp it on another non-porous surface, for example, an acrylic block, and then you use that to stamp on your paper, so it actually becomes a mirror image. Guess what? With digital, that is not so complicated at all. All you have to do is insert the picture. I'm going to again use the same, and then once you have the pictures, select it, and then you can flip it horizontally or you can flip it vertically. You can even do, like, you can do rotate at a 90-degree angle, or you can rotate at an angle. You can do all that fancy stuff right here. without doing anything extra. So that's another cool thing that you can do with digital stamps. Again, very easy. Third one is masking. This is one where I actually wanted to make my stamps um, allow themselves to be masked. So I wanted to have images which let people do masking. What that means is you should be able to use my images and place one in front of the other, and it won't create something wonky. It won't try to show parts of the previous image via or through the front image. It will not do anything weird like that. So let me show you what I mean. Um, let's insert. Okay, I'm glad I got a leaf. So see how I have two flowers and a leaf. If I put this image here, and if I put the flower, I can simply make the flower come forward, and even though this area of the flower is blank, it's not like letting the back leaf peek through it. So in a normal stamp, how you would have done it, you would have created a masking, you would have created a mask using a masking paper or a tape or a post-it or something, where you would have stamped the same image on that temporarily stickable kind of a thing, like a masking paper, and then you would have covered the front image and then stamped the back image so that the back image appears to go behind. You don't have to do any of this complicated stuff here. I say that with an asterisk, with a disclaimer. For that, the images have to be made in such a way that the inside parts of these images are opaque. It's a closed object. It's this part is opaque. So even if you put something behind it, it's going to cover it. If this was not opaque, if everything here was like transparent, the behind image would have shown. Also, notice something. Even though it is selecting a rectangle, where there are no petals, that is transparent. So it is letting the leaf peek through where there are no petals, but where there are petals, it is actually opaque. So that means it's not going to let the leaf peek through in odd places. It is actually going to make it look like the flower is in front of the leaf. And yes, the image will have to be made in a certain way. The image will have to have uh, parts which are identified by the designer as opaque versus transparent. But if you look at any of my images, I'm doing that by default because I love creating my own designs and I want to be able to do masking. So yes, you will get that in this June release onwards, because I think I was learning April and May. So I think by June I've now figured it out how to do it. So these images, I'm pretty sure you can do all masking you want. So masking, all you have to do is place your images in. While you're in digital, it doesn't really matter which image comes first and first onto your document, which image is getting placed later, doesn't really matter. You do whichever one you want to be on the front, you select it and you go to bring to front, and that will be the first image. It will be there on top of everything else. Cool, right? Yeah, I was very happy when I figured it out. Next one is something I recently accidentally stumbled about when I was thinking about how else can I extend my digital stamps, or how else can people who are using my digital stamps get more use out of it. So in here, you can actually add, let me use the bouquet stamps for this one. Yeah, in here you can actually add shadow, and I'll show you how cool that is. Again, the stamps will have to be made in a certain way, so you are kind of dependent on the artist and how they like to make their stamp. There is no right or wrong way for the artist to do this. Oops, I'm extremely sorry. I think I did something that my PowerPoint did not like. Never. The inside part of the images needs to be opaque, and the outside part, like the background part of it, needs to be transparent. Only then this will work. So you select the image and you go to, it's easier to do it like this. Select the image, go to format picture, and you get the first option in format picture is shadow. So you can place a shadow and you can actually play with it. You can make the shadow bigger, you can make the shadow smaller, however you want, and you can change the angle of the shadow. You can make the blur bigger, whichever, whatever you want. And it's just another grayscale kind of shadow that will get printed. And So the reason I said the image has to be made in a certain way, that the background here should be transparent, but the image itself should be opaque. If this was not transparent, you would have just got a shadow for the entire rectangle and not your image. But since these images are made with all these techniques in mind, you can actually play with it, and you can actually make cool effects, like have your images have shadows. Okay, now for the final slide, let us look at how I like to plan my cards. The first thing I like to do is go to my page setup and set up the width and height to be the paper that I'm going to print on. I will be printing on a letter paper, so I'll set it up to be like that. Even when I do this, it leaves a little bit of room all around, like it leaves 1 inch on all the sides because of the margins, etc. I like to override that, and I like to make it 11 inches by 8.5. So I will type in the size that I want, and I will set it up to be that. And it will ask me whether I want to scale up or scale down. I can just let it do it. I know I'm not going to use any of the previous slides, but if you want to use them, you might want to go back and either do this page setup, the first step of your planning of your slide, or simply go back and adjust for size. I'm just going to keep this aside for now. Next step, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use one rectangle. Okay, simple. I'm going to make sure it has no fill. For now, I'll leave the line there. I'm not going to remove the line just yet. Okay, I'm going to size this to be, see, it is 11, 8.5, right? I'm going to size this to be 4.25 by 5. Okay, since this was not locked. If it is locked, you'll have to remove it. Since this was not locked, I was able to put my own dimensions in both these places, and now I have a rectangle which is exactly 1/4 that of my slide, which is letter size. Right, so I'm going to use it to place it right at the top, and then copy and paste it 3 more times. And then stick it right there, then copy both of these, and then stick it right there. Alrighty, and then in here you can come in and put your images. You can plan however you want, print it when you're completely satisfied, and cut them into 4. When it prints, you cut the entire piece into 4 parts, and you have 4 card fronts ready for you. So that's how I plan my card. Or this is how I plan my card when I'm planning all 4 at once, for example. But if I was planning one single card at a time, or if I was planning something more elaborate, I would have done some of the same steps. Place a rectangle here, make sure it has no fill, put the size in there. Suppose this time I'm going to make it a portrait instead of a landscape, so I can do 5.5, 4.25, and then I'll place whatever images I want on this. Whichever, however you want, you can just plan this, and then when you print it, you know that this is the size. So if you're using what I like to do, I like to use my rectangle dies to cut out my printed stuff, so I can just do that and I can print it out. I think that's it for today. I hope you found this useful. I hope you like this way of using PowerPoint, and please do give it a try with my stamps, with any other digital stamps you might have in your stash. Go ahead, play, and I'm sure you will learn so many things when you play. And don't forget to share those with us here on my channel so that other people can also benefit from your learning. Thank you so much. I'm so glad you took the time to spend some time on my channel. Thank you so much. Take care. Stay safe.